last few weeks we took a look at the Odin Pro, which is proving to be quite a cool emulator device. And in this video, we're going to do an unboxing and first impressions of the Super Dock. The Super Dock aims to turn your Odin Pro from a handheld console to a home console, not too dissimilar from the Nintendo Switch. I had quite an interesting first impression, so be sure to stick around for the full journey. If you haven't watched the Odin Pro first impressions, or the in-depth gameplay videos, they'll be linked in the description of this video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the full super in-depth Odin Pro review coming soon. And with that, let's dive right in. The box for the Super Dock is no comparison to the Odin Pro unboxing experience, but all the same, everything you need is included. As soon as you open the box, there is a US converter for the power brick. Taking the dock out of the box, it feels a bit light and flimsy. Putting the dock aside for now though, we've got an instruction manual, a USB-C cable to USB-C, and an absolutely massive 65 watt power brick. The power brick does have two USB-C ports and one USB-A port though. Taking the dock out of the wrapping, it's clear that it's not quite as premium looking or feeling as the Odin itself. The dock does have an impressive I/O selection though. For connections, there are a total of 5 USB ports, 2 on the front and 3 on the back. There are GameCube controller ports on either side of the dock, and 2 N64 controller ports on the front. There is a micro HDMI pass-through to the side HDMI out to show the device in 1080p mode, and the 4K HDMI output is on the back. On the back of the dock, there's a USB-C for power and an Ethernet port. In addition to the ports, there's also a space for a solid-state drive. I've already got a 512GB micro SD card, so unless you have literally the entire GameCube, Wii, and PS2 library of games on this single solid-state drive and you only want to ever use it when you're plugged into the dock, I'm not really sure why you need this. Nonetheless, it is still something that I'd like to test. I don't have a solid-state drive at my disposal right now, so I've got one on the way, and I'll be sure to check it out during my full review. Alright, moving on to actually using the dock with the Odin. So I really was not expecting this to happen, and I'm specifically not playing this up, but my dock did not work at first. The first time I put the Odin into the dock, it detected the controllers, but wouldn't charge and would not output video to my display. Also, all of the controllers plugged in at the same time made the Odin act weird and open random apps. In fact, after about 20 minutes of troubleshooting, I started writing this video about how unfortunately my dock was dead on arrival. Yeah, I thought this thing was completely dead. I had tried everything to get this thing working. System reboots, unplug everything and replug everything back in, verify the power adapter is working, make sure the HDMI cable is functioning, check for firmware updates. All signs pointed to this dock being dead. But right when I was about to give up, I thought about trying the Nintendo Switch in the Super Dock. I mean, it's basically looks like the same thing anyway. If it made my Switch explode, well, that would have made for an interesting video too. But guess what? It worked. The Switch worked in the dock. So I tried the Odin Pro again, and all of a sudden, it just started working. Since this point, I haven't had any issues getting the Odin to work in the dock. I've been removing and reinserting the Odin into the dock countless times for this video, and every time it's worked fine since. I honestly have no idea what happened, but I'm glad it works now. This may be something you want to keep in mind, or at the very least have a Nintendo Switch or a friend's Switch handy to give your dock a kickstart. Once my dock started to work with the Odin, it really was a ton of fun to use in games. When you plug the dock in, it takes a few seconds, but just starts mirroring your device to a display. The quality of the HDMI out seemed pretty good so far as well. I did notice though that when I was playing games in high performance mode, the Odin would get a bit warmer than when I was playing it in handheld mode. It seems like a strange choice that the Odin has vents on the back, but the dock completely blocks them, which is I assume why the Odin actually ended up getting a bit warmer than I was used to. While using the Odin docked, I found the front plate on the dock to be more in the way than anything else. Luckily, you can easily remove the plates, and that's what I did. When in emulators and remapping your controllers, all of the ports seem to work as expected, and mixing and matching controllers, like having a USB controller alongside an N64 controller, also worked fine. It's a bit strange that the N64 ports are in the correct direction, but the GameCube ports are upside down. It doesn't impact any functionality or anything, but I did find it a bit odd. Switching between docked and handheld mode is a decent experience. You do need to quit out of your current game if you're in the middle of one when you're switching, and you have to select a different controller profile in that specific emulator, or you may need to restart RetroArch, but with save states, that shouldn't be much of a problem. If you're using a controller that you haven't previously used before, you might need to make a new mapping and a new profile selection so that you can quickly select it next time, but once you do that, everything should work fine. When it does come to controllers, your mileage may vary. I had no luck with any of the 2-pack Amazon off-brand N64 controllers I got. Even a USB N64 controller wouldn't quite work right. However, the Warrior 64 controllers that are both for the N64 and the USB work perfectly fine. I've got links in the description for the controllers that have worked for me so far. As for multiplayer, you should have no problem with local multiplayer as long as the emulator supports it. It's a small annoyance that when your Odin is docked, the only way to wake it is to press the power button on the Odin itself. It would have been cool to see an auto-wake functionality when a controller is plugged into the dock. Maybe something we see in a future update. So, now that we already confirmed the Switch works in the Odin dock, I wondered if the ports would work. Well, you don't get anything extra by risking your Switch blowing up by using the Odin Super Dock. It's not my lack of trust in the Super Dock, it's more the lack of trust in the actual Switch because it has weird power delivery. When you connect the Switch to the dock, the USB ports work fine, but the USB N64 controllers that I have don't have good enough mappings for games to be playable. You also can't remap the controls, and that's a Switch limitation. The GameCube controller and the N64 controller ports unfortunately just don't work at all. To be sure, I tried both the GameCube and N64 controllers from the home screen. I also tried the GameCube controller in Super Smash Bros., and that didn't work. And then I tried the N64 controller with Super Mario 64, and that didn't work either. Using the Switch in the Odin dock works perfectly fine when you're using a wireless controller as expected. There's no lag or anything like that. My initial impressions weren't as strong as the Odin Pro, and I think that is partially because of the hassle it was to even get this thing working to begin with. Had it been more plug and play, I'd have been much more excited about the dock. But the build quality feels a bit lackluster, the sense that this is maybe not the most reliable accessory, and some weird engineering choices does make it feel like the complete opposite of the Odin device itself. Nonetheless, it does have some pretty cool features like N64 and GameCube controller support, and that alone does make it an accessory worth considering. Let me know what you think of the Super Dock. Do you have any questions that you'd like me to cover in the full review? Did you have any issues with the dock like I did? Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the full review and all the content that I've got planned, and I'll catch you next time.